I'll cast you guys. Here too. Yeah, so going on to week 12 stuff, pictorial drawing stuff. Let's see. The first one I'm going to do is this one. I'll preview them all real quick here for a minute, though. In case some people, I know a few people have already done this one, so there might be a few things I'm going to do different than what I've seen some of the people that have turned this in. So there might be a few things that you see that I do different. I'd like you to be able to understand if you've turned this one in already. But if you're moving on to the other ones too, that's why I'm going to preview them all just a little bit. So this one is in our inch template. But we have drawn this, we've already done the orthographic views for this, and I previewed this early this week too. We've already done the orthographic views for these, so it's just a matter of finding that drawing from week 6. It was one that you just dimensioned only, but you would have saved a copy of that, and then we went over it, and then I would have had you like do your red lines on it. So we're gonna open that up today and add to it. We're just gonna do a revision on it essentially, and add that an isometric view to this. And so we're going to do like this is how like most of your assignments that I've drawn, I just kind of put them in an isometric pictorial, not necessarily an oblique. So I had to kind of fix my writings on my board because I was calling this an oblique, but I would say nope. I gotta use my correct terminology here a little bit, but just an isometric view to kind of the default CAD isometric planes, which are at a 30-degree angle, and we'll see that when we go in there to draw it. What I'm doing here, but I'm gonna draw it at full scale. That doesn't mean that means I'm going to draw the object, at its real dimensions. Not that I'm going to scale. I'm not talking about the drawing scale here. I'm just talking about actually the way I draw this is going to be at its full size, and so essentially 1-to-1 in the model space, which is what we're used to doing. But some of our other views, we will change that up a little bit. So I ended up putting mine on the B-size layout, and then I just gave it a name. I don't know if it has to be a unique name. If you're going to save it in a different folder from where it's coming from, then it doesn't matter because you'll be in a different folder and it won't matter if it has the same name. But anyway, so I'll show you what I mean here. So there's just some technical things I want to show you. It's kind of maybe my last little, I don't know, just some more of some of the technical stuff in CAD or just how to batch plot is my main thing. So what I want is likely that drawing already had 2 layouts with it, and we probably used either the A or the B when we submitted the assignment. And because our old templates used to just have an A and a B size sheet that we did the old title block for, old border, and we're going to update that to the B size sheet. So it's kind of a refresher on how to pull stuff in from another drawing and how to batch plot so that I actually can print all these as one PDF. So I can just, these are actually all one PDF. They're not separate PDFs. So I want to make sure we know how to do that work. And this is what I'll jump into. But like I said, it's going to be called the base mount from week 6 that you would have done. And that's the one I'd want you to pull up and be ready to draw on. Let me preview the other 2 assignments if you're working ahead a little bit. These ones are oblique drawings. So this guide block and oblique drawings. So the difference is this isometric one that we'll do first, everything's kind of on a 30-degree angle, like even from the surface that I'm viewing, it's kind of like going away from me on 30-degree angles. With the obliques, they actually draw the front view, and they do the pictorial looking view. They actually draw the front view, or I should say the front view, the front surface of the object, they draw it kind of like in the normal front view plane. So let me open up this assignment. It's not on a, yeah, so anyway, the front of the object is actually on your normal front view plane, so it's perpendicular to your line of sight. We're going to call, so we're going to, and these are explained in like page 511 of your textbook is where the obliques are, and we're just going to do 2 of the obliques. There's 2, they categorize them as 3 different obliques: cavalier, cabinet, and general oblique. The general and the cavalier are kind of the same in some degrees. Not, I guess not exactly, because the general can be kind of drawn at any weird like projection angles away from the front view. So let me show you what we're at here. But the cavalier and the cabinet oblique are the 2 main ones we're going to draw. So I've just given you an isometric view. See, this one's on like an isometric 30-degree planes, kind of how the front view and the right side view are situated. They're both kind of going away from me at like 30-degree angles. So that's a normal pictorial kind of view or an isometric view. And we'll draw more of these like next week, I think, too. So, and then I'll add some of these images to like, I'll have us draw some of our previous assignments, and we'll be able to add the isometric view to those drawing assignments from earlier in the semester. But this one's different, right? So the actual way we're going to draw the isometric pictorial here is different. This is called an oblique, and this one is actually what the is it the cabinet oblique that we do in this one? A cabinet oblique at half scale. So that just means that I put the front surface like right like I normally would. Here's my it's this same surface here is this same surface here. So it's like perpendicular to line of sight. And then I project, the only really projection angle away from me is this one at like a 45-degree angle. And then what I do is I actually draw this at half scale as well. So this is only half the size of its depth as it goes away. It's just kind of an imagery thing and how it still looks like it's at full scale kind of. So it's that cabinet oblique. It is, I think it gets the name cabinet oblique because cabinet makers will draw their cabinets this way, I think. And it's just something we probably may or may not have ever noticed. But yeah, so this is the surface, it's the front view is perpendicular to my line of sight, kind of projecting away at 45-degree angles to half size going away. So, but this is actually drawn full size right here. The surface is on my front view. So strange. That's called the cabinet oblique. So just pay attention to that. Like 511 in your book has some of that explanation. Additionally here, so you'll have to do your typical orthographic projection. So I show that even then I also have an auxiliary view that I've rotated down that little piece. So that's my completed. I mean, and then you also dimension it all out. So I even left off the dimensions. So this is one that I'm kind of using as like I don't know, it's just kind of a catch-all. You kind of have to do everything. We're going to add that other view to it. Then you're going to have to choose the dimensions that are necessary for it. And so, yeah, it's good. We're getting close to the end of the semester. Okay, and then let's look at the last one, which I think I've categorized as a cavalier oblique, the offset block. Yeah, I give it again as an isometric pictorial here, just for us to view and how I dimensioned it. But your finished drawings will look at this one. So, and this is kind of situated similar to that last one. This is just the front surface at full size. Then it projects away at 45-degree angle, but this one is at full size here. So this is at full scale. And they say that this works well when you have kind of narrow, like the depth is not a very long depth. So if it has a lot more depth maybe than width or height, maybe this is not the best view for that to draw them at full scale. I think that's the idea behind the cabinets is they draw them at half scale. That's a better looking perspective. As that kind of diminishes, it's that vanishing point idea as it gets away from you, the objects get smaller as they get away. That real like entry level art, which we don't have to go too deep in that. Your textbook goes deeper in than I'm going to explain for sure, just with vanishing points, multiple vanishing points, all that perspective view stuff is pretty detailed. I mean, it's a heavy, I mean, I think it's a lot of stuff to dig through and understand, but so we'll just dabble in it with a little bit. What I just want to explain is most of my assignments, I draw like this first one we're going to draw, I'm going to draw like this. And so I think we'll do these couple of obliques that we'll be due next week, but then we'll move back into doing more drawings like this. And it's just because CAD is kind of set up to draw like this a little easier than it is the other two ways. So I kind of by default, usually when I draw a pictorial, I probably go to kind of this perspective here. So let's try one. Let's see what we got. So I'm going to go back out to the Base Mount Rev1 is what I'm calling it. So you would have had from week 6 that base mount drawing. And so I'll start with that. We'll see if I've even got a blank slate to start with. Yeah, I probably do. I got to go back to my week 6 stuff. Mine up here. So week 6, we did a base mount. I ended up, I'll even do the key here because I would have posted the key. If you guys did it like this, probably. I don't know what situation yours are in. If you have, well, you would have downloaded mine, so I doubt you probably deleted these 2 layouts. They're probably still there, right? Because this was a one that I gave you the orthographics. So all you had to do was download the DWG file, add the dimensions, and re-upload it. And then a lot of people have like redlined theirs with the red lines I would have told them, or as we went over in class, you kind of added maybe some missing dimensions. They didn't have to be exactly dimensioned like this, but maybe capturing most of these dimensions. So this was my finished thing after I've dimensioned it. Still only has an A and a B size layout with it. So the first thing I just want to say is what we want to do is bring in some stuff here. We want to bring in a layout that's been created. And so and this is just more of a refresher. We've done this kind of stuff before, but we don't do it all the time. So I think we forget maybe how to do this. And this is just a way to do it. There's going to be multiple ways to do this kind of work too. So this is kind of the way I've showed you in earlier times when we've brought in data from other drawings. And so I'll stay consistent and do it the same way. From that design center is what it is mostly. So let's see here. So what I would want is I want to bring this up. I call it Rev1, this assignment, because we're kind of doing a revision on this. This is how it was initially sent out. So now let's do a Rev on it. We've got a better title block, and we're going to add a view to it. So I'm going to call this Rev1. So I think when I opened mine up, I just saved it as a new name or something. And I'm going to move mine. So I'm going to save mine right away. I'm going to do kind of a save as. Normally, so one thing, normally you wouldn't rename a drawing when you do a revision, right? You just carry the revision history along with the drawing. So I'm going to save this as a new drawing. That's maybe a little bit of against the rule, but normally you just have it would always be saved the same in the same place, probably, associated with the same job or same assignment. And we would just carry our revision history, no matter how drastic that revision was. But so what I'm doing here a little bit is maybe breaking the rule just a little bit. I'm gonna mostly because it's a new assignment, I guess. So I'm just gonna move it to my week 12 assignment stuff, where I have a folder for the stuff. So I'm going to call this one in class. This is going to be my Base Mount Rev1. And I'm just going to call it class. All right. So if I want to bring in something that, what I do is I use my View tab. So I'm going to bring in another layout. I'm going to keep these two layouts that I have, and I'm going to bring in my View tab in the middle of the palette where I bring out my Properties panel all the time. There's also this little calculator looking thing, which is the Design Center. This is just a kind of a file browser. So I don't know where it might always go to the last place I used it, but essentially it should just be like browsing through a folder on your computer. So I've got my thumb drive plugged in. Right here's my thumb drive, which is where all my drawings are. Well, what I'm going to go to is I'm going to go to my template file. I'm going to go to my ISU template file. And so, because my ISU template file has that updated title block. And so that's and so that layout's already kind of done for me. So if I just bring it in, I don't have to do any extra work. So I got to go to my CAD files and to this class. I keep my templates in there in a general. In my general folder for this class. There's all my templates. So when I open this up, I really just have access to all the drawings or templates that I would have. And so I want the ISU inch ones. This is it. This drawing that we did for the base mount is in inches. So I'm going to open this up. What you have access, if I even click on this, you have access to all some of the formatted stuff in this drawing, which is going to be different than what we did on the original drawing. So I'm going to bring in some of this stuff. Mostly, I'm going to look for that layout. So one of the main things you can drag in is a finished layout. For me to do this, all I really need is the B size layout. I don't need these other layouts. I'm not going to do any A size work. I don't think anything will fit on A size unless I make it really small. So I'm going to bring in just the B size layout, just a click and drag and drop. I'm going to do one quick little check here. I'm going to close this, but I'm going to go back into it maybe in just a second. What I want to know is when I brought in my layout, I don't know if it brought in the layers, because that layout has like some other layers that this didn't have, like a title. I don't think this, let me see what layers we have here on this drawing. We did have, I think, so it'll bring in, like if I brought in, so this is interesting, my original layers were all in capital letters. When I drug and dropped that layout in, it had to bring in some more data with it to help to even make it functional. And it brought in this title block layer. So that's good. So it'll automatically bring in some of the stuff. It probably brought in some of the textiles and dimension. I don't know, maybe not textiles and dimension style, but and I don't think we're going to have to worry too much about that. But what I want to show is there it is. It brought in this layout here, just like that. As easy as that. It came in. it kind of does, it doesn't know what the automatic inputs are for the title block, so it looks like it auto-populated a bunch of uh, yeah, number signs there. So which I'm gonna have to go in and change that at the end anyway. So not a big deal. But I gotta make sure I redo the. I'm gonna call it Rev1 as well. So I'll probably call this Rev1. I'll see if I'll build just another table. I don't my Rev block isn't as smart as I want it to be. I'd like it to be able just to populate a new line to every, when you get in there to do a Rev. I'd like, you don't usually delete the old Rev. You keep it as this growing list of revisions potentially. My Rev block isn't that smart. It doesn't create a new line for us yet. Maybe next year. So I'll just so anyway, so I'm gonna go. I'm gonna unlock this. But yeah, this is gonna be the new sheet that this is gonna go on. And that's great. And then we're gonna draw our new little drawing here. I don't have to worry about too much where it is in the model in the model space. I can just draw it anywhere and do a viewport to bring it in. I might get rid of this viewport. But so we'll come back here and I'm going to check one more thing though. So I didn't bring in any dimension styles. These dimension styles are probably sufficient for what I need though. I'm going to check them real quick. So I'm going to go to my annotate tab. But I'm pretty sure anything I'm going to do here. In fact, I don't even have to dimension the isometric view at this point on this one. I think we will next week do some. But this one, I'm just going to leave it as an undimensioned view. So I really am not going to, I don't think I need to worry about if I brought in the right dimension styles or text styles. I think we've got them anyway. So I'm happy with just the layout coming in. And then I just want to show you right off the bat the batch plot idea here. And then I'll get into actually drawing. So what a batch plot is when you have, I've got my one drawing here. It has one drawing number. It might have a bunch of sheets. It might be 20 sheets. This one, ours is kind of now has 3 sheets, even though I really only need one. I'm going to treat this as if I had 3 different sheets now, and show you how to put that in as one PDF. I think it's just helpful. I don't think I've done it before. So if I'm going to say I've had this done and it's ready for PDF, so then that would be just a normal Control P, right? And the default might be whatever I used last. Like sometimes, I don't know if you've noticed this, sometimes when you go maybe to the first time you go to make a PDF and you have multiple layouts, you might get a little dialog box that says, you want a batch plot or do you want to do a single sheet? There is like a prompt that'll show up. I think once you've picked one, like maybe the first time I went to make a PDF of this, I didn't choose it. So now I just think I'm going to make a single sheet. It's like defaulting what my initial selection was during that dialog box. So I don't even have it come up to me now, but you've probably seen it. I'm going to guarantee you probably have. It's this dialog box that says something about a batch plot, something about a single sheet. And all we've been using so far for our PDFs is single sheets, but I'm going to say, if I had this drawing done, how would I do all these sheets as one PDF? Well, if you've already selected this, it's going to just want to make a single sheet from what the layout is on. So I'm going to just cancel this real quick. And just remember up here, your all-powerful A. Sometimes you have a few more options underneath here, especially when you're going to go to print or to plot. Here is batch plot. So a batch plot is just when I have multiple sheets in one drawing. Pretty common, actually. Actually, it's more common to do this kind of a PDF anyway. So the batch plot looks like this. And I'm going to make mine just a little more complicated than yours. I only have one drawing open, but I'm going to show mine I'm going to open one more drawing just for my own, just to maybe complicate it a little bit here. Let me open up one more for this. Just one once. So we're doing these guide blocks and that guide block drawing here. Okay, so now I've got 2 drawings open on my. The only reason why I'm doing this is just to make it show you why. Okay, so now I'm up here. I'm gonna do everything's ready. I'm ready to do a batch plot. So I'm actually gonna come up to this in case I don't have that prompt open up. I can always come up here and say I'm gonna do a batch plot. And it opens up this different dialog box. I don't think we've gone over this in class yet, so it's critical to do this before we leave CAD for sure. So a batch plot is actually just gonna is this dialog box where I can kind of name. I could like. So let's see how to explain this. It wants to give it a name because I can kind of save the work I'm going to do here as kind of like a name or this batch plot. format that I'm going to choose here. And why it's going to give you a new name is what I'll show you, because what we're going to do is kind of load some stuff here. So what this, I think this is default. It checks automatically load all open drawings. So what I have is I have two open drawings right here. And so what shows up in them is the model space and the layouts with those drawings. And so if you only have one drawing open, it might just have your model space, which looks like the yellow and blue icon kind of. And then it has these little grids with the little old school pencil triangle there. And so that's the icon of like, these are your layouts, and that is your model space. And any of them can kind of be turned into drawings, right? There's a lot of people that when they first learn CAD, they just kind of print drawings or make stuff from model space. And we never have, because we're drafters, we do it right. And so we're always doing drawings and layouts, and our model space is for the model. So, but when you go into a batch plot, it actually will pull in those model spaces as a potential like drawing it can make, or a PDF, part of your PDF package. So what I do first, I get rid of those. So I'm generally sorry, I just like went top to bottom, bottom to top. But so for me, I have two drawings open. The only one I want to batch plot is my base mount one here. So I don't even want this other drawing that I have open. So it's not that you only have to have one open. You can always just come in here and say, well, I don't want. So if I select one here, it usually gives you the option to add or subtract to this list. So I'm going to subtract my other open drawing model layout, and I'm going to subtract the actual layout that's on that in that drawing pack. So I'm going to subtract that. Now I'm left with just the drawing that I'm looking to batch plot, and I don't want its model space though. So I'm going to select this. This is the model space, and I'm just going to subtract it right here. So now what I've got is I've got a list of just my 3 layouts that are available, and I'm going to put all these into one PDF. So it looks like it does a little check on them to see if there's errors with them. This is why you can give it a name. I'm not going to give mine a name, but it's because you've kind of like, when I go into this drawing to batch plot it, it will kind of load this this setting right here. So there can be a reason why I might give it a name, and maybe I'm only going to batch plot the revved drawings to send somebody. Like maybe if I open this up and it has 10 sheets, only 3 of them are affiliated with the rev. I might make a name that says, sheet list is rev1. These are the rev sheets. And then it's kind of this saved format that's within the drawing. And so I would say it's more common that when you do revisions, you actually revise the whole packet. New revision labels go on the sheets that have revisions associated with them. The master list, probably at the front of the sheet set, is going to carry all of the revisions through it. And then each sheet will just carry the revision history of what happened to that particular sheet. So usually it's pretty common that I'm always just got all my sheets as part of my revision process. But it does vary, and there's a lot of online forum stuff where they talk about the difference, how companies either do the revisions only, or they do the whole print pack, and they move the whole print pack up to Rev1, not just the individual sheets that were Rev. So it varies. My common practice was we rev the entire print set, so that all pages carried the most current, latest revision number. So maybe it avoided having like broken up print packs with different rev numbers, and then you just don't know if you're working from the right rev. And so anyway, okay. What I have is just my layout. So I think I come over here to publish options. I can't remember all these dialog boxes until I get into it. And so it just shows, mostly it's just where do I want to save this? I think it's going to, I don't know, for whatever reason, it's auto-populating some D drive. So I'm gonna browse it. I want to put this right next to my drawing, actually, like I normally would, would normally save my PDF right next to my DWG file. So I just need to find my file that I want to actually save this batch plot in. Let's see. So week 12 is where I'm saving mine right here. Mine's called in class. So all I need to do is just choose this folder where it's going to put. Yes, this is just a folder selection, not a name of the file yet. So I kind of forget that. No, I'm not going to name this any different. I'm just showing that this is where I want to save that drawing. It's actually on my thumb drive in my week 12 stuff right next to where my DWG file is. So I just made sure. That's the only thing I really needed to do here. I mean, there's a few other options. I keep everything as default right here, but what else does it have? Yeah, it has a bunch of little checks that I could create different stuff. I'm just going to say okay. And so now I've just chose where this location is going to be saved at. And now if I say publish, this is going to make one PDF out of 3 different drawings. So if I say publish, and I think it gives me the opportunity to name it now, my 3 drawings. So here's my name. Yeah, it wants to know what you want to name this. It knows that you're going to want to name it. It drove down to the file that I told it to in the publish options. Once I had my publish options selected, it drove down to that file. Now it gives you the opportunity to name this particular, I'm going to call it in class. That's not a problem to do it now anyway, because it's just kind of like saving the PDF, and then I'll just overwrite it when I actually do have my model work done and it's more corrected. So it's not a problem to save this first and then to do it again. But let's see here, save it, select yes. That's what I'm gonna. Do you want to save the current list of sheets? That's the sheet name. I'm gonna say no, even though if I do need to save it again, it's handier if I do save it. It'll want to give it a name. So I'm going to say no at this point because it's good to practice doing that over and over again, actually. Just says, oh, it's publishing in the background. Usually it shows up on your status bars. It looks like a little printer chugging away down there on my status bar. And I think that thing will give you a prompt like when everything's done. I can just close this though. It doesn't take that long. Maybe just see there. It says it's done. The difference is, if you notice, when you make a single sheet, I feel like it always will open up your PDF from whatever is the default PDF viewer on your computer. This one doesn't. It did make the file, but it doesn't really open up my PDF viewer. So I'm going to go just quickly open it up and just make sure that it looks correct. So it should be in my week 12 guide block. Refresh this. Oh, it's actually in the Base Mount Rev1. So here it is, my in-class one. So there's the PDF that it saved. That's because the settings, my page setup manager, I'd already set it up to plot the PDF with color and everything. So it's going to be the same formatting that we've been using. I didn't change any of the layout type of page setup. So this really should be like a PDF that shows me that I have an A size sheet, a B size sheet, and another B size sheet. So if I open this up in my actual PDF browser here, this is what I should have. Yeah, I've got 3 different sheets here.
Can you go back to
How did I get here?
check it? Was it just an update?
Yeah, it just once I kind of went through and clicked through that batch plot file, and I said publish, and then I gave it a name. I picked my folder first, then I gave it a name in that folder, and then it just put it there. Yeah, once I hit publish or once I hit OK, it actually just put that thing there. It just didn't open it for me to preview, which is pretty common. I don't know why the batch plot doesn't once it's done open up your PDF. Just doesn't. So then I have all 3 of my sheets here. Now is what I end up having: one PDF, multiple sheets. Looks like my first sheet. Can't say that maybe it's the arranged order they were in the dialog box, because what I have is my page 1 is my new layout, and then my page 2 is the B size layout that existed already, and then my page 3 I think is the A size layout. So, but it's all one PDF. This is kind of how I'd want you to turn in the assignment, like with the batch plot PDF. So I have all of your drawings. So I have kind of the Rev1 drawings, or the Rev0 and the Rev1s kind of together.
If they're not in that order of drawings, does that matter?
Well, it kind of does. Like that. Yeah, it does matter. Like mine. So what I'm going to do is, maybe I'm going to oversave this. Let's experiment with that, because we don't do this a lot in class to where I kind of forget. And CAD wasn't my main export option. Inventor was for me. So Inventor does this kind of naturally. The way I build my sheets is a little different than CAD. It's similar, but so let's see. Yeah, I think it's probably going to be just the order that it was in the list, because really, maybe I would have wanted A size to be first, or usually you have a running order list here that is really specific. Once you build a print packet in its order, there is a flow to it. When you're creating a set of prints, you're showing generally assemblies, then you're breaking down into parts, and then part details, and maybe cut files. So there's probably generally, like for every company, a flow that they want with their print packs, and how you actually. So you wouldn't want them all mixed up so you'd want to be able to control that. So I do agree. I wanted my PDF to be all of these, and this one be the last one, not the first one. So let me just make sure what went wrong on me, and let's see if same thing maybe happened to you. So if I go back to my batch plot, of course I didn't save that, so it's going to go through the same thing where I've got my other, but yeah, let's see. Might start from the one that I was on, actually, because because I think I was selected on our layout when I entered the batch plot, so that could be what's driving the flow. Let's see if that's it, because I see that they're arranged correctly for me, A to B to the new B size layout. I'm going to get rid of this model space one. I'm going to get rid of my other drawing that I have open. So let's see if when I publish this, it's going to go to that same folder. So it's really going to tell me that you already have one named that. In order to do that, you got to make sure you close it. So I've closed my PDF, obviously. You can't override it unless it's closed. And so let's do this. So now I should be able to publish this again. Yeah, and these all should be, I would expect to be in that order. So here's the one that I'm overriding again. Select. No, I'm not going to save the current list of sheets again because I'm not sure if they're in the right order for one. There it is, chugging away here. If I go now, it says it's done. I'm going to look in my folder, do a little refresh here. Let me see what this is. Yeah, so I think now my sheet, now my A size sheet is first. So I feel like what it is actually which it's going to build an order from which one maybe you're selected on down in your layout tab. So I kind of forget that. So here I was selected here first, and then I did my batch plot, and it seemed to go from there down. The first time I had this selected and I did my batch plot, and it went from here the other way. So if I can't, I don't know what it would do if I chose this one. It might put them both on, but I don't know which flow it would be. So I mean, I could experiment with this, but more of the story was if I had this one selected, printing from there down. And then, and like I said, it's generally pretty common on a multiple print pack that you will definitely have a specific running order of sheets here, and you'll probably want to print them from here that way. That's kind of sheet one, sheet two, sheet three potentially. Yeah, I mean the other thing I could kind of change here is that really this might be sheet three of or this might be 3 of 3 or something, right? Or so when I actually make this, maybe I'll make my PDF say right when I'm actually going to do this batch plot at the end. But okay, I just want to show that. I just don't think we've covered that, and we don't use it a lot, but we will. And because I think Inventor will be a little bit easier when we're doing multiple sheets. So it's in my future, obviously, to do kind of more multiple sheet drawings for CAD because it's something that is more common that we just don't do enough of it. Super common in architectural that you have batch plots. And so you probably covered that in architectural as well, just how to batch plot your entire floor plans or whatever it is. It's pretty common in architecture to be working with more sheets in it from on every drawing file. I can't say exactly know how she organizes it. So your students can speak to that for sure. And maybe she has a little different way that she does that too. So there's, like I say, there's probably more ways to do that than I just showed you. But now let's draw what I say. So that's kind of some of the technicalities there. Remember how to bring stuff in from other drawings, and that's how you batch plot. And now let's actually draw this this object over here somewhere in its isometric view at its full size. So it's just going to be a full size. So what you have to kind of load to do this, or it's helpful to load this, and it is kind of critical to have this, especially with holes. You want to load your isometric drafting planes here. And so if that's not on your status bar, it looks like the normal little like green and red X and Y, but they're on a little bit of an angle. So it should be one of the commands we have here, isometric drafting here. So if you don't have isometric drafting selected, do. And it looks like this little icon right here. When you click this on, it just changes the grid behind you, so it looks, and it's on 30-degree plane. And that's probably modifiable, but I've never modified the isometric drafting planes actually. So I can't say if I know. I have to dig a little bit to find it. It seems like everything's modifiable, but. And that's one reason why I draw a lot of the pictorial drawings for your assignments just on these iso planes here. So what you have though, so once you have the iso plane, I don't know which one's yours shows. Mine's kind of this left side iso plane, but you have like kind of an iso plane left, yep. And then you have an iso plane top, which is kind of like top or bottom, sitting down. And then you have iso plane, what's the last one here? Oh yeah, iso plane right. So it can be helpful. It's really critical that you're on the right plane when you're applying a circle that's going to become an ellipse. You have to to place that, it has to be on the right iso plane. Otherwise, you won't be able to place that circle correctly. It's going to associate it with the plane that you've got selected here. But that's about it. Otherwise, lines and stuff, you can kind of draw them on any plane, whichever one makes it helps you visualize 3D a little bit better. So I might say that my default a lot is just have my iso plane left on here. And what I'm going to do here is go to my construction layer, I'm going to do my same. There's the construction layer for the orthographic projection. I'm going to kind of do the same thing where I would always box in how big my part would fit in. It's kind of similar here. So I have all the dimensions here I can work from, or we could load from the assignments. Maybe I have the, oh, I don't think I have the original one loaded, huh? That had the dimensions. Well, I never gave that to you actually. I didn't have an isometric view of this. So I probably will have to just have this up on my screen or something, which might be this PDF that I've attached. Is that what that one is? Let me open this. Base Mount Rev1. That might just be, yeah, so I'm going to throw this up on my other screen just so I can work from these dimensions. I mean, I could use it in my model space. Maybe it's easier to have a PDF up so I can just look at the dimensions. But because what I'm going to build is just a box where all this goes in. And I don't do this on every drawing, but for me, it helps, and especially when you're learning it. Maybe it just helps to build this like glass box to put this in. And it's, and I'm pretty like thorough when it comes to my construction layouts anyway. So especially as I'm teaching, I know some of you just get the projections you need. That's all you need. That's fine. I try to usually complete mine as just as an instructor. Just I complete the feature to feature stuff. And I get that some people don't do a complete projection construction work, and that's okay. And if you do this with kind of a shorthand construction method, that works too. But I'll do the full construction here. So I'm going to go to my construction layer, align. I'm just going to pick anywhere out here. It's like I'm not going to snap to the grid or anything. I've got my grid snaps off. I know if you'll notice that turns on and off a lot automatically. It seems like in my ISU templates for some reason. So I'm just snapping up here, and I'm going to draw this either way. But what I'm snapping to is this 30 degree. So I definitely got my polar tracking on 30s, 60s, 90s here. That's what I'm going to use primarily. So I'm looking at like this is kind of the bottom of the front view. So it's kind of the overall width here. So that is what, 3 inches. So I'm going to make this line 3 inches long on this 30 degree kind of plane here, which I could tell it matches the grid. Like my lines should be parallel with that grid, which is why that grid's kind of helpful. It's just like kind of behind you, keeping things parallel to that grid is what I'm kind of doing. So this is 3 inches, right? And so I might just draw the base of this, like the base footprint for this object on 30 degree planes though. So I want this to be 30 degrees from horizontal this way. And I kind of will make it like a 90 degree little corner in from where my cursor is, where this line is starting. So the overall depth of this was 2 inches, right? Yeah, 2 inches. So 2 inches this way. So that's the full scale nature of this. I'm drawing this at like full size, full scale. And then here you can also use your object line tracking here. So I can actually highlight, similar how I would draw just on the other regular planes, is I can target points like this, snap them together. So that's kind of the base footprint, right, of that object. 3 by 2. Then it goes up whatever the height is. And I'll build up the whole height. I'll just build the whole glass box actually. So the height is what, 2.5 inches? Yeah, 2.5. So I said I was going to use my PDF on the screen, but I'm clearly looking at my document. So it's 2.5 inches tall. So I can pick any quarter, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go up straight up horizontal at 2.5.
Is that on the bottom? Was it a definite 30 degree, or was it?
No, it's definitely 30 degrees. So I definitely have my 30s on, so I'm getting those tracking points. So yeah, when I did draw it, I made sure I was on that 30 degree plane like that. And you can tell that's like a parallel. If I zoomed in, it's a parallel line to the grid behind you. That's what we want. And if I were to turn on the other, let me just show you, like this one should be parallel to the right isoplane. So I haven't changed it because really to draw just lines, it doesn't matter which plane you're on, whichever one kind of helps you view. But if I went to the isoplane right, these ones that project this way should be parallel to that one. And they are. I can see that. They look like they're pretty good in alignment. Yeah, so I'm definitely keeping this thing at like 30 degrees so that really my line of sight on this is kind of right on this front corner, and everything else is kind of going away from me. Oh yeah, 2.5 is the overall height of this. Yeah. So the object this max dimension was 2.5. So that little line's 2.5. And then you can build this however, like the front plane, I'm back in my line command. The front plane is right here, right? It'd be like this over to here. So I can kind of draw this in and target that point like this and down. Doesn't matter. So that's just kind of like the bottom box. Here's the front, the normal front plane here is right there. And so it's going to be this glass box I can kind of see through. If it helps to build it from the back, you can, because I can do that now. It's essentially just this. This is the back edge here, kind of throw this away. It's still going to be 2.5 inches tall, so full size like that. Then it would come over to here at 30 degrees angles like this and down. So that's the back plane, kind of. And then if I connect those two corners, it's essentially just a glass box, right? Like we built the cube. And my part really, this is the boundary, like it's going to live in here. All of its parts, features, and sizes, based off its overall height, width, and depth will fit in that box. Now I just got to kind of piece it together with visible lines and kind of visualize that. It's a box I'm looking through, so it kind of tricks your eye, right? Probably gives you a headache too long, but. Yeah, so so now I'm just gonna draw, I'm gonna kind of, you could build this anyway, like there's all tons of different ways you could draw this. So I'll just probably build the base plate that it sits on first, and then I'll build this little part. And then we'll add the holes because well, even this radius will have to be maybe, yeah, there's a buried command to do that. So let's just start with the plate here. And you're going to build stuff that's going to then become like hidden behind you. And I don't use hidden lines, and I just I trim out those lines that would be normally hidden. So I'm going to show it as kind of a 3D solid view and not with hidden lines. And I can't remember, that's probably in your book. That's generally the way we're going to show our obliques because they're just for visual help. Like a visual aid is more than anything. Especially when people are new to like reading drawings, new technicians that you might be doing drawings for, they even might have a hard time viewing the total shape of the object in just orthographic views. But when you add a 3D view to your orthographic views, it just helps everyone make way more sense out of what they're looking at. So definitely used as a visual aid. But let's go to visible line work. And draw the base footprint really would be just this whole thing, right? Like, and I'll draw a lot more visible lines than you probably necessarily have to, but like, and I'll just trim mine out. But that's kind of the base. It would just sit on the bottom. Of course, it has a radius corner here. And there's some details we'll have to put in, but really the base sits like that. And then it goes up. It's a 1/2 inch thick plate. So it's like a 1/2 inch up here, 0.5. So I'm just going to start on one of the corners, kind of. That's 0.5 up. I drew that line, 0.5. Then I'm going to come across and back down. That's kind of like the plate thickness that I would see here. So really I can just draw this back now to the back. And some people are just like really, wicked good at doing this. Some people, they struggle a little more, so you just have to be patient with yourself, whatever it takes. But yeah, it's just interesting. People can just fly with this stuff pretty fast once they start drawing it. I just want to make sure I stay on the plane. Don't. I mean, it looks like to me just the nature, the shape of this box. So I've got some alignment that's kind of the upper top corner. So when I came up a 1/2 inch and I project over this way, it seems like I'm pretty much in alignment with that. Well, that's not. I'm just not viewing it that way. I'm just like, well, it just happens to be that way. I just know that mine needs to come over to this back edge here, and then it was back to this point here. That's kind of how I would show that plate thickness. Other than what I would say would trim out, would be like this would trim out because it's kind of going away from me. I wouldn't even see that line at all. So it's kind of funny. We drew that in. I drew that in, but really I won't be able to see it because the shape of this will block it. Even this one here, I won't see at all. So now this should look like a 3D soap bar sitting. I turn off my instruction layer, right? Oh, I'm missing a line. Yeah. Also, when that stuff shows up too, that I should have this. Eventually, that's going to become a corner, so it's going to be trimmed out even again. But yeah, that's a 3D soap bar at least, and then we just got to go from there. So trimmed out the stuff that would really be buried in the view. Essentially, it would be needs to be hidden, but we're not going to do hidden, so just delete it. And now I'll build a little upright here that's kind of towards the back. It's like a 1/2 inch thick, and it's the rest of the height tall, kind of. And I could draw it in as a rectangle right now, and then trim it with. I think that's what I'll do. Is I'll just draw this as kind of a full rectangle. And so maybe I'll draw it kind of from the back side first. It doesn't really matter. It's just that I have a good alignment here. It goes up from here to there. And this thing is only, I know it's round on top, but it's only what a radius of 1/2 inch, so it's 1 inch. wide here. I'm gonna make sure I'm on my projection. 1 inch. And this would go down to where it would meet the back edge like that. It's a 1/2 inch thick, so I think I can just kind of show that right here, 1/2 inch. And it comes down to where it meets that little top plate. You gotta zoom in, make sure you're snapping to the right things. Looks like there's some alignment there too, that's fine. And then this one comes over 1 inch. Back to here, I could just target that too. And then this one's gonna come down to this plate here, right? Well, let's see here. Let's take this over first. So from here, so we come across 1 inch, right? We're up to here. Target that. Should be 1 inch though. Then I should be able to go back. Maybe that's the thing. And now I just need to trim this all out so it looks right too. So maybe there's a bunch of hidden, there's stuff I didn't necessarily need to draw. That's never going to show actually. And these now are buried behind this, so it looks like that, right? I guess now let's put some features in there. So the features, maybe I have to do, so what I really need to know to place the radiuses and the circles, I usually, just kind of with my orthographic views, I like to place them by center points mostly. Same thing here. So I'm going to draw some center lines of where those would be on my construction layer. So I can just, I'd like to know like where this one is. If I come over, I think they're on center here, like a 1/2 inch over. So yep, 0.5. I just cursor it over, and then I'm gonna, how far down are they? Looks like it's 2 inch up from the bottom, 2.5. So it should be a 1/2 inch, like that. Almost intersects my yeah. Looks like my endpoint pretty much lines on this. It's not always that case, just the way the nature of these dimensions, how they're working out. But that endpoint of that line is definitely the center point for the features here. So then I'll show you how to do that, and then we'll do the bottom ones. But we need to have, yeah, we'll just do this one. Let's see, visible line work. So it's an ellipse is what it is, but it's like, so of all my ellipse commands, I can never remember which one has on the command line has it modifiable. But so if I pick center ellipse, it looks like it just wants to know the center of the ellipse. If I choose that, then it wants to know the endpoint. Hey, I'm in the middle of the class.
Okay.
But
We'll go grab, Alicia forgot they were doing presentations, but.
Oh, okay.
Alicia.
Oh, yeah.
That's how you said
okay,
it.
sounds good. Yeah.
Teach us and give it to her.
Yes,
Honor.
I know your teacher.
There was one that came through yesterday too, huh? Yeah, I didn't know they were coming through, but yeah. And then, so okay, so what I want to know is which command has this other, so when I picked center ellipse, I don't really have any options, I don't think, on my command line. Let me see the other one. The other one is axis end. Yes, this one has a few different options. So the type of ellipse I want to draw in my isometric land here is the axis end ellipse. And it's only because on the command line, it has what's called an iso circle. And that's what I need to use is the iso circle command, which is probably just an iso. So you could probably type that in if you can't remember where it is. It's just an iso circle. The problem is you have to like know, oh, maybe it's not, it should be. Maybe I just didn't, yes, iso circle. Well, I don't know where it is. Maybe it's not. ISO view. Sheesh. I'm surprised it's not like if I type in ISO, the ISO circle doesn't come up. It's kind of interesting. I just try to remember that it's buried in there. I'll have to look up. I'm sure there's a key command for that. Yeah. So I have to go look at my master list. Maybe. Axis end for sure. Then I'm going to choose ISO circle, so I can just select it. ISO circle. It's going to want to know the center point of circle as well, so that's good. That's that. And then what it's doing is it's drawing on the plane that I'm associated with. So this is not the right plane for how my circle shape would be. It's because I'm on the right. And so this is what I'm glad I actually did this wrong, because this is what will happen. Like it's driving this ISO circle based off the ISO plane that I have, that grid behind me. And so that's a right based grid. So this circle is kind of like an ISO circle, that would be parallel with this grid that I have on. So if I want it on the other grid, I need to move over to that grid. So I'll exit that command actually and go over to the left grid. Now kind of the plane that I'm going to place this ISO circle on is now parallel to the ISO grid behind it. So this should be the same command, ISO circle. That's my endpoint. And now my circle looks like it's on the correct plane of my part. So
If I drew the opposite, if I drew on an ISO, like, or
different plane.
yeah, or left.
I don't know if I can push that to the other plane.
Do I, would it work if I just did the opposite plane for the circle? Because it looks right, like it looks.
If you're on, so
I don't know.
I can come up and look. Mine will definitely not look correct.
I'm awesome. Oh,
Yeah, I like the first one. If I was on ISO plane top and I grab that thing too, it should look weird. I mean, this is my center point for my circle. It's gonna look like that. It's definitely top down. I mean, it might slightly look correct, but it's not correct. Maybe that's hard to visualize, but it's the geometry throws it off for me. I'm like, oh, that's not the way I expected my circle to look. So, and that's probably the only major trick to these drawings, really, is getting your ISO circles on the right plane. ISO circle. Because it's just driven by diameter here as well, or this one's driven by radius, right? So I think it's the specify the radius of this ISO circle. So mine is it's a half-inch diameter circle on our drawing. It's a quarter-inch radius. So that is that. Let me just warn you though, one thing you always want to check when you're doing this kind of work is if your part is thin enough, you're gonna maybe see the exit of that hole too. So always do this one. We probably are not going to, but how I would check that is I'd want to know where this circle exits through this plate thickness. So sometimes I will just check myself before I move on because if some of the circle is shown in here, then I want to show that. And so how I would do that is just make sure you know where the center of your. So I'm going to my construction layer. Essentially, just going to come over here and go over a half inch. I'm going to go down a half inch, and that would be this would be that end point of that line would be the center of where this circle exits through the thickness there. And so if I take this, I just make a copy of this now, copy this ISO circle. This is what I usually do is I'll just at least locate where the center of that would be, make a copy of what I did, and then just place it over here. You can see that nothing's going to show through the material thickness. It's just too thick. But if it was a thinner part, this thing would probably show up like this, and then it could see some of it would be visible through. And we experienced that on some of our parts that we had to do auxiliary views for on our orthographic projections. It's the same concept. Just watch yourself, keep track of the entrances and exits of these features, and if they need to show through, then let them. So here I'm just doing a double check that no, at this particular projection angle, you're not going to see any of the exit hole. So I can just eliminate it. I don't need to put it in there. This is going to be sufficient to carry the information. But just watch yourself, just check yourself. And then I've got a couple more holes to lay out here. So I'm on my construction layer. Let's lay out some center lines at least. Any way you want to do it. You could offset a line. These are what, a half inch from this front edge. So I think offsets kind of work weird though, right? I think this, let me do like, if I needed a half inch offset on this line this way, I would be a little careful doing that necessarily. I might measure this real quick. I don't think that offsets will keep you on see, it's like 5.774. So be careful with offsets. It's not actually, I want it to be a half inch. And so the offset didn't take into account that I'm on a 30-degree kind of plane here. So I usually don't do a lot of offsetting with my, when I'm in this particular projection plane. I actually do the due diligence to say, well, the center line would be a half inch over here. And then it's going to be this way. And I can just stay on that 30-degree projection plane like that, snap it in there. So that one now, when I measure it, is at a half inch, right? When I measure this, it's at an actual half inch. And it's just because we're drawing at a full scale too. We're drawing full size, which you have something that's excessively deep or large, you get a distortion of the imagery here, right? Our parts are pretty small, so they hold up pretty well with this view angle. But we'll come back to that either, because there is some manipulation on your navigation wheel on whether you're looking at parallel perspective or perspective. I don't think we pulled that up in view either, but I can kind of change my view by clicking this maybe. It will do some auto changes for me. Mine is on parallel right now, and that's pretty common. The default is parallel projection angle. I think you read a little bit about that in your book too. So now mine looks all weird, like it won't go back to the normal. Oh, corroded looking. I don't know why. Do mine a few times and see if it gets back to it. There it goes. Whenever I did that, even clicking back, it kind of went weird. So we'll play with that a little bit. I don't play with that a lot, but I have to forget it's there until I was reading this morning and in your book. I was like, oh yeah, perspective. Oh yeah, there's perspective in the navigation wheel. Oh yeah. Sometimes I use it. I don't use it a lot though. Okay, so and then I just need to know the center lines for they're a half inch in and then 2.5 from the end. So I'm just going to just create, I just need this crossing mark for that. So maybe I'll just go over this 1.5 inch. The other one's 2.5 in there, I think. My drawing, yeah, pretty much in line with that other edge of the plate. Everything is like in total alignment here, which is kind of confusing, but this would be my center of circle there and center of circle here for my iso circle. Let's do that. And I do think that we kept the radius corner and the center of the circle concentric to each other. So we have a couple iso circles to do over here, but let's just do this one. The front ones are the both, let's see. Iso circle. So this is going to be on the top plane. If I put it on this plane, I'm on the right plane. It's going to look like where I drew that last one. I want to be on the top plane to place these, the isoplane top, which is really top or bottom, but this is going to place my iso circle on the correct plane like that. Yes, these are also 1/2 inch diameter, so 1/4 inch radius. I'm just going to copy that over that other center point.
Wait, which, board version?
This is the only one that has the iso circle additional command is the axis n type, which has iso circle down. I don't think the other one does either. Elliptical arc. Oh, elliptical arc can do an iso circle. I tend to not use it. It's kind of like an arc. I usually use circles and trim them more than I use arcs. But and it's also that I want to make sure where the exits of that are too. And there's ways I could look at that. It's going to fall into the same thing where I'm not going to need it, but it would be from center down like a 1/2 inch. This is a 1/2 inch thick plate. That is the exit of the of that hole going down through. And if I was to do like a copy of this, I'm just checking it again myself. This is where the hole would exit through the bottom plate, and you wouldn't see any of it through the top hole again. The thickness of that plate is making it so nothing is showing up. You won't see the exit at all. So I can eliminate that. I don't need that. That's just a little check there. So these both fall into that category. And then we need an iso circle for the radius here, or elliptical arc iso. I just haven't. I'm probably clumsier with that, but it's on the same top plane. I'm going to do the iso full circle for the radius, which is a 1/2 inch radius from this center point. Or you can just pull this out. That is a 1/2 inch if I've drawn this correctly, which looks like I have. I just snap to this so I can see my 1/2 inch grid. So there's that one. Maybe that should have been obviously the other line type that. And this one, I will see the corner on the bottom here. So this one I will, I've got this 1/2 inch line drawn down from the center. I just drew it down 1/2 inch. That's the thickness of this. So from that hole, it kind of exits 1/2 inch. So this end point here is where I can copy this large iso circle down to that point. And that'll give the look of a radius edge here, right? So I do need the bottom one here. So I'll see both top and bottom turn around the corner here and leave my view. And then I'll have to trim all this to fit and probably draw an additional line down. So So let's do that. I'm gonna make a copy of this big ISO circle from its center, move it down to where it exits the plate. Looks like everything jives pretty well here. You should see like, tangent lines up here. If you're not seeing that, it's probably that you're misaligned somehow. Because this is the glass box. This is the boundary. It all has to fit in there. If it's exceeding it or whatever, you've got misalignment somewhere. Dropping that center line wasn't straight or something. So I'm going to turn off my construction line so I can trim this up and make it a little cleaner to see here. So I'll turn this off real quick. Then I can just see, all I need is this, I only need a little bit of that, the actual ISO circle. All this will trim off, so I'll trim it. It's now being intersected like that. I think that's probably it. I won't see the under one either, so I'm going to trim this out now. Won't see any of this. So it should look kind of like that. And then what I need is a line down. I usually pick, like in this case, I'm going to pick the quadrant of this ISO circle, or it looks like it's got a midpoint, but there's my quadrant. I'm going to drop the quadrant down to the quadrant, or it could be just like a tangent to tangent line. But I'm looking for like a straight vertical line that's that would be tangent to that arc and tangent to this one. In mine, what showed up was quadrant. I think that'll work good, and I can finish trimming now. This is going to get trimmed out. That's trimmed out. This is trimmed out. And I won't see this going away from me, and I won't see that like that. Yeah. It's very, very little bit of this arc is what I kept. Shows its whole size still, even though it's all just trimmed ISO circle. But very little of it that I need. And up top, I need just about the same, a little bit more, because I see it turned around the corner a little more. But that is that. Oh no, I should have finished that up there. I don't know why I moved on without doing it, but so I'm gonna turn that on and do essentially the same. It's gonna be a similar thing that I just did there. So let's do that. Should have finished. I was gonna finish that feature. We got distracted. So it's ISO circle again. And that is also, I think, the same. It's just I gotta put it on the right plane. So I'm gonna go left. ISO plane left. ISO circle. On the same center. And this one should be there, should be a 1/2 inch radius. Yep. 1/2 inch radius. Maybe I'll just grip that and snap it. And then I'm glad I have this other center line on where I checked the last hole. Now I can use it for the endpoint of it for the copying of this ISO circle. Just copy it. And then center. Paste it over here where it exits that thickness plate like that. Yep, it's all down by there. And now I just got a bunch of trimming to make sense out of here. So let's trim this up. This is going to go away. Yeah, this will be, I'll carefully trim that one here. Trim like that. But I think I'm going to look for the quadrant here again. I just want to look, this is going to carry across here where these two arcs kind of end, or they meet this. Yeah, so let me see what what grips I have here. I think if I just grab, I think you have a few, but there's my quadrant again. It seems like that's what I'm going to grab and pull it along that 30-degree projection plane there to there. I think so. Then if I trim this out, should look correct. Trim that. Doesn't look correct to me. I trimmed this one too much on the backside, yeah. Which I think I can probably extend. Yeah, I can grip that and extend it like that. Yes. And I think if I would have hit, let me try. If I would have just actually hit extend on that, because I think that works too. I have that boundary there, so I'm going to extend it. That's another way to get it there too. If you don't want to pull that grip and maybe misalign it. Yeah, good. Catch. That. This goes.
I feel like something was just like ever so slightly off.
It looks ever so slightly off. Yeah, I do agree. I think there's like a perspective thing here that looks ever so. slightly. And I could probably sit here and analyze this a little bit, but I
Well,
think that's,
Yeah, same time.
yeah, it kind of visually looks a little bit, something maybe. Let me check my, and it could, yeah, I don't know, I'm gonna check that this is a 1/2 inch, right? That should be a 1/2 inch. At some point, this should be a 1/2 inch. Maybe at the top of this line here, across here, 1/2 inch. That actually is the right measurement, but it does, to me, it almost looks like it's fatter, right?
Or like the thickness, the through hole, like the thickness on the right side seems like smaller than on the left side.
It does right here, huh, or something.
Maybe it's just there is no, like,
Yeah, so yeah, it's a good thing to see. That it's kind of weird. I can't say that I wrong it wrong that I can tell. Yeah, I don't know if it looks better if I do turn it on to a perspective. Mhm. I don't know if it kind of it breaks it up and kind of makes it look all funny. And then last time, I don't know if it really helps my perspective necessarily. Back to parallel. It doesn't act like it goes back to parallel. It's kind of funny. Oh, maybe because it changes it to a wireframe visual style. I guess I didn't notice that. That's the only difference. Is I think once it overrode my visual style. That's something we haven't talked about too much either. Is that your visual styles probably should be on the view tab. Where are they actually? We haven't really changed our visual styles very much, huh? I know where, okay, so I'm just trying to remember. It's funny, let's see here. Just in the top right here, like this one, I don't think we ever even noticed these these ones for sure are just like a quick access. I was thinking there was a palette somewhere with them. Mine's just wireframe, yours might be 2D wireframe, yeah. 2D is like the normal, I think, default, huh? Yeah. But when I change over to perspective, mine is, I noticed that earlier, it's definitely changing it to a wireframe, yeah. For whatever reason, and then even going back to parallel keeps it on that wireframe. But so so your visual style, yeah, doesn't do much here. Yeah. It will we will mess around a lot more when we go to the 3D objects that we draw. That's funny. If I go to a shades of gray, it just changes my whole back to shades of gray. So
I really like that one.
sketchy works great. Yeah, that one just looks like, hey, if we should, instead of doing pencil drawing, this is how we should start drawing, like to replicate what it would like if we were pencil drawers. Totally. I'll teach my next group. We don't draw with pencils, but we're going to draw in CAD with sketchy. We're going to draw sketchy. Yeah, it's kind of funny. So I think when we get to a 3D CAD, we will play around with these a lot more, these visual styles. So the visual, I thought the ribbon menu has this loaded somewhere. And I'm sure it does. I'm just like not looking careful enough that it will pop out this little this is like classic CAD. I mean, I was looking for this to be somewhere on here. They always have this like cone. It seems like that's how they always show their difference in what the different visual styles could be. Yeah, that's good. So I don't know. I mean, I think they say in your book maybe perspective is like supposed to be the better. It does kind of it applies some of that vanishing point concepts to here's my main. So it's going to help me kind of diminish the size a little bit, I guess, by perspective. It should kind of get smaller for me as it goes away, even though this is a pretty small object, so it'd be a very minor ratio probably, but yeah. I think keeping it on parallel is fine though too. Oh, I'm on parallel. It seems like it doesn't. If I go back to 2D wireframe, maybe it automatically goes to parallel. It does. So 2D wireframe is only displayed in parallel perspective. Interesting. And you can't look at a perspective view on parallel or on you got to move to a different layer conceptual. But I can tell it does change the shape, and I'm gonna go back to just 2D wireframe parallel perspective. Okay, perspective with ortho faces. I'd have to play around with that quite a bit. So now I just need to add a viewport, add that to my drawing, call this good, right? So add this viewport, just need to make sure it's not chopping off. Add a new one on the viewport layer, that'd be great. I think, is this at a 1-to-1 scale? That's a 1-to-1. I think this will fit 1-to-1 as well. And it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be placed, let's see here. It doesn't have to be like nestled up in here, like nice and tight with this view necessarily. Like it's pretty, I mean, this is kind of, our orthographic view lends itself to placing one in here, but if I can't, I can move this view to where I have space on my drawing for sure. It's a little bit disassociated. It doesn't totally have to fall into this quadrant here that I have kind of, but that is kind of the nature of orthographic projections. It kind of leaves a place up here. It is pretty common for us to, I feel like on drawing placements with mechanical parts, it's pretty common to place our view kind of like this, where it's up in our upper right, but our orthographic views are kind of down and to the left of it. And just a common placement on drawings. It has been for a lot of years. I wouldn't want to show it on this side necessarily, unless I had projected it that way, kind of. I mean, it's not that it'd be wrong, but maybe, yeah, maybe I'm thinking of it being
Would that be like first angle versus third angle projection?
yeah, I think you're definitely getting to where it would be. To me, it kind of goes back to our isometric, where I definitely am leaning towards this is front view, this is right side view, and that kind of follows this. If I move it over here, I think I can say, well, I mean, I can make sense out of it still. It's not the end of the end of the world, but I feel like I would have projected it a little bit different. I would have came from this side, maybe with the hard radius towards me right here, and then away. So I just feel like there is a a better place to place this, so it makes sense with your other views. Drives the reader of your prints to make that alignment in their brain. So if that makes sense to you, yeah, I think I would have. The placing over here, I'd almost be looking at this round corner as this drawn from that perspective. That's all it should be, really. Like I should turn off these grids because they're kind of locked down this one at 1-to-1. No dimensioning on it necessary. Get rid of that. Do a quick save. And then I'll just check my PDF. And then I'm ready to do my batch plot of this probably because now it's on here. And I'll just check it on my other layouts to see if it fits or see what I need to do on those other layouts to add it to those ones too. Because I'm doing a batch plot of all of them, maybe I'll make sure that it looks the same or looks good. That view looks okay. This one's over here, so if I need to put a view window on here. It's not totally necessary. I mean, this is just me because I'm going to batch plot all three, so maybe I'll add another viewport here too.
Or we do it on the A side.
Yeah, this is, and I'll do it on the A size too. I think maybe it won't fit it. I don't know what scale I'm at there. I'm at a 1-to-1 on this sheet, so I'll go. Yeah. I think I did because well, I can't remember. Maybe my sheet should, let me look on the assignment. I'll see what my sheets look like. I don't think I added it to the A size sheet. I don't think I had room. I think my A size sheet is 1-to-1, so I didn't add it. I think I just added it to my B size, looks like to me. It's probably because it caught itself more than anything, but this one here, I think I did build a different viewport for it. So, and then I'll fill out my sheet here. So let's do my finish work. That'll work. That's 1-to-1 on the other B size, but I think I'm right. I did never add it to that. Just left that one out. And then, so I'll fill out my new sheet here is really this one, so I can fill out the rev block. I'll put it as Rev1 in here. I know I'm going to lose Rev0 because I'll have another new one, and I don't think I'm going to worry about it. So I'll just Rev1 here. So I'll add my data. 13th today. Friday the 13th? Almost Friday. Let's stick by one day. That'll be sent to production. Or actually, the description here would be my Rev1 would say something. You know, it was already sent to production on the last one, kind of. So my Rev here would be the description of my Rev, which would be added layout, and ISO view. Something like that is how you would actually, it'd be a brief description, whatever can fit in there. You have to keep your words pretty minimal, but it's just a quick little readout of like what Rev1 was, right? And this could be pushed to and then things on. And then I've been putting NA here because it doesn't apply for zoning. So something like that, yeah. Rev1 would have a little description with it. Ideally, I wouldn't have lost Rev0. It should be above it. I would have 0 there, and it should say 0 was sent to production. Rev1 was added layout, and it would have this date. My date of my drawing should be should probably match this. This is the actual drawing date from your original date. Mine's 9/30. So when I come in here to do my title block, I don't have to fix all of the hashtags. I know that auto loaded, and we haven't really talked or worried about materials or finishes yet. We will next semester, more than this semester, because it is something that I wish right off the get go we were always thinking about materials, but none of our assignments this semester really are material. There's a few that we did, but not too many were material driven assignments. And I know we've had some chapters on the finish categorization of like surface finish textures and you know, so the finish, you know, the material and the finish on this title block are really critical actually, but we have kind of been not super critical in paying attention to those yet, but we will get there. I feel like I'll get there with the surface finish more in second semester with maybe with Inventor, but surface finishes fall under the same category of kind of like decimal places and the accuracy. So if you're expressing excessive amounts of like surface finish control, then that's also causing additional work done downstream from you. So you do want to know like what is a general purpose surface finish, because you know it could be for a lot of parts that you draw. The general surface is great, or sometimes I have to exceed that and apply a finer surface finish, which machinists can surface finish out of metal or even out of plastics with a high degree of accuracy, but you're going to cost them a lot of excessive manufacturing time to do so. So there may not be a reason for it. There may be a reason for it. My big soapbox today is like, it does matter, even though we haven't been super critical of it yet. But, so I'm okay if we just leave the hashtags. I'm not going to worry about it right now, but it's a B-size sheet. I'm still going to put my initials on it. Maybe the only thing that I'm kind of like nerding out a little bit over is that the original draw date is, I think, what I'm going to put here. So originally mine was drawn on the 9th of 30th, September 30th. So I'm going to carry the original drawing date. One reason why I know there's a revision associated with it is because it has, you know, this date would never change. Once you send it to production, you probably lock it down with that date as when it was. Sometimes it's the approval date when things are approved, might be the timestamp or the stamp they want in the title block is the date. Maybe they want it once the drawing's been complete and sent to the customer or to the in-house fabrication departments, or whatever. There's definitely going to be that controlling date of when it was sent, and that's not going to change ever. Your revisions are going to carry their dates with them as things move forward. Then you kind of get you just get like a time, you know, you get a stamp in time stamp on your drawing essentially from everything that's been changed on it. From when it was sent. A lot of times when it's in like checking stages, our dates, we might, like as a drafting group, you might have a spreadsheet that goes with your drawing where you're tracking the checking dates and stuff. They might not end up in the title. That might be an in-house like engineering drafting tracking system that we want to track, like how long it's been in engineering from checking to revisions, in-house revisions. I would call it like in-house engineering design group revisions. There may be a separate spreadsheet that the manufacturing personnel don't ever see, but we keep track of that in-house as an engineering department or drafting department, because we want to know those times, like how long somebody had it to check it, how long it took them to check it. It just might not end up, you know, there's usually not a place on a drawing to categorize that, but that is also still, when you think of lean manufacturing or trying to produce, you know, increase efficiency and productivity, you know, your design managers are going to want to track that kind of stuff. Sure. So that being said, I'm gonna have the original drawing date. This is really Rev1, so I'll just push this to. Someday I'll remember to get in the box. And then I haven't titled this sheet, but it'll carry the same title. Probably you can call it Rev1, that's fine. I've called it. It's pretty much carries the same name, Base Mount. But I've just said it's Rev1. Not super common to have to say Rev1 in the title at all, because you have a whole, Rev block for one, plus you have the Rev status here. I do think this is kind of interesting that this would be sheet 3 of there's total sheets that are in this set now would be there's 3 total sheets. This is sheet 3 of 3. That great debate from several weeks ago. But this title block is made to be like this, which I do like this one maybe the best. So I'd say okay. It's the only one that's going to carry that, right? Our other title sheets don't have that. And only this new one does, but this is sheet 3 of 3, which is why, getting that PDF order does matter. So I'd say, okay, that's sheet 3 of 3. You can leave everything else just with hashtags, fine. And that's it. So this one to me is ready to be my final batch plot. I can do one quick little check of this one. I think that's going to be okay. This one's fine. So I'll go to this one here, and I'll do my batch plot from here. So that's sheet 3 there. Okay. So let's do that up here. Batch plot this thing. That's essentially a type of export for mostly. I don't think it's actually under export. Those are going to be file type exports. This is like a printing type export. So we have quite a few different options here. Batch plot's the one I want. I still haven't got rid of my other drawings. Some people just close other drawings. So they don't have to do this kind of get rid of this stuff. But get rid of my model space layout. I don't need that. There's my sheets. Maybe I can drag and drop these. I don't know. I was thinking that I thought the running list was this one, whatever list this was a 1, 2, 3. But you can move these around in this order. And like I said, I could flip them this way too, but I thought this was the running order of my sheets. So, okay. I'm still going to the same file for me. I'm going to publish this thing now. I'm going to overwrite that. Maybe I have it open though. Yes, no, I don't. Yes, my PDF is open. Yeah, it's open. So I got to close mine. Otherwise, I can't write over it. Let's do that. So run the sheets now. It's okay. Then I'll check my PDF this time. Should have my finished work. 1, 2, 3. Good. So it's still just a single drawing upload, single file upload is what it should be. Just one drawing file and one PDF for this. Let's call that good.
How do you edit the sheet details again so that